Welcome back to the Sportsball Podcast, your source for sports. I am hosting this week, Nathan, alongside my co-hosts Zach and Andy. Tragically, if you hadn't heard, football season was canceled this weekend, so
yes,
we'll get into that further in further segments, but we'll go ahead just kind of break that news first and foremost. Then we'll get into the MLB at the moment.
definitely do not look at the schedule for like the next 2 to 3 months. Just if you see games there, they don't
real.
exist.
Not real. Not anymore.
They sit on a throne of lies.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, everyone's favorite teams, the Dodgers and the Yankees, are in the World Series, and we're super excited about it. It turns out if you pay double the league payroll, good chance you might gonna have success. So congrats to those teams. We were talking beforehand of how much we were actually going to tune in. Personally, for me, I'm thinking somewhere around the game clinching games or the series clinching games around the 8th or 9th inning. It's probably about my interest level at the moment. I know Andy's super excited for this matchup.
It's trying to pick the lesser of two evils. And the Dodgers are, in my mind, the lesser of two evils, but not by much. Like you said, Nate, the salary cap is just a construct. It's like time. It doesn't exist in the MLB. But if you look at every other league, like we had mentioned off air, the salary cap is actually enforced in like most of the other professional leagues, just not the major league. Don't know why, but yeah, I don't plan to watch a single second of the game unless I'm scrolling through highlights on Twitter. And that's not my disdain for the Dodgers. I don't want to watch the Dodgers, but it's there, but not as much as I despise the Yankees and everything that they stand for. So the only time I watch the Yankees throughout the year is when they play Boston, and that's it. Outside of that, I could care less about what the Yankees do. So my viewing intake is going to be near zero. Not completely zero, but near zero, unless I scroll across like a cool home run job by Shohei, which probably is going to happen at some point. But
unless he's washed.
Some people,
the streets. There's murmurs on the streets. They're
some
not saying
people
it yet, but there's
within
murmurs.
these realms have texted each other and said that maybe he's washed. It's hard.
Maybe is doing a lot of heavy lifting on these, by the way. Just saying, he may be washed. We don't know, but maybe.
It's like that Bayless tweet where that comma does all the heavy lifting.
Yes.
The all in comma my ass. that singular comma. That's a great tweet.
Would have been far funnier if there was no comma.
I know. But just like you said, Zach, that maybe he's doing a lot of heavy lifting when we say
I would argue
words.
it's doing all of the heavy lifting if we're going to be totally honest with each other, but I don't make the rules. And if streets are saying that Shohei Ohtani is potentially washed, is maybe washed, then who am I to argue?
You're right.
There's murmurs. Like I said, they're not saying it yet, but there's whispers on the street.
This is like a career-defining legacy type series for Shohei. So if he doesn't win, then he's washed forever. I mean, we don't make the rules. That's just what
truly no coming back from it.
No, there's not. And the Dodgers could go to 10 more World Series, but like this particular one will be the career-defining legacy for Shohei, and you cannot convince any of us otherwise.
Yeah, I endorse that.
It's kind of similar. It's kind of similar to when we had this discussion about the Super Bowl earlier in the year, where like I didn't know anybody that was crazy excited except for Taylor Swift fans for the Super Bowl.
We were excited
not that I know many Taylor Swift fans, but I know that they exist.
Meteor could happen for this series too, and I think we'd all be okay with it.
I really do question, like, if all of a sudden a meteor threat came and hit the Earth, and just conveniently was like, oh, it's going to be in this stadium the day that they're playing. Like, really, what happened?
That's going to be a sign. Like, I don't know how you look at that and don't think that that's not a sign of, like, okay, it was meant to be.
It would. No, I think the argument could be is that if they canceled the game, like, oh, like they had enough of a heads up. We don't necessarily want people dying. Just saying, like, oh, the stadium is going to get destroyed. Yeah, the statement itself is that there is a meteor coming down. But if then they canceled the game and then the meteor just decided to go away, then it's like, okay, now we know. Now this can't happen. There cannot be a game at all. So it just has to chalk up to a tie.
You're making a lot of sense here, and that's like too much logic for this right now.
Just saying. like we said last week, I think we did some math on this. Number one sports podcast for a reason. Don't fact check us, but I think there might be some logic here. So
yeah,
that's what we all facts and logic go into every single take we have. It's never a hot take. In fact, we are very good with our freezing cold takes. Rather,
yes.
It's actually been a running gag. You guys just haven't been in on it yet. Not you two. I'm saying the people that are listening. They're like, oh, wow, their takes are terrible. That's on purpose.
Except for the ones that aren't. Those are also on purpose.
Well, yeah, it's always up for interpretation.
Yeah, we're really good at that.
Disclaimer.
But yeah, bring it back to the MLB. I mean, the teams wise, pretty meh. But like, objectively, taking like the names off the uniforms should genuinely be good baseball. But it's just sad that it's two of the pay to play teams. So congratulations to them.
It is kind of cool though to see just two like very historical teams go up against each other. I mean, at like kind of to your objective point, you take all the names off it except for the Dodgers and the Yankees part. And I mean, it is kind of like, oh well, they've been known to be pretty good for a while, and it's been a while since they've played each other. I think they said.
Yes.
I don't know about World. Yeah. So,
I mean, it's Ohtani and Mookie and Freddie Freeman against Soto and Judge. Like, I mean, that objectively on paper, that's a crazy matchup.
But it's a hell of a matchup. Doesn't mean I want to watch it.
Yep.
Yeah, both can be true. Both.
Now, all this being said, don't forget to check out the Patreon that totally exists.
Yes. Totally exist.
What 8 billion, I believe, is the number.
To adjust for inflation now, after a week, it's going up.
And then addendum to that, we had some discussion within the past week as well. This is getting into college football. We have a good track record of certain teams winning when we attend games. So we're proposing a $1 billion per year subscription so that we can attend certain games. So some teams, odds might go trending towards winning. So there's something to consider. We're keeping the Patreon options open. We appreciate all of the.
Before we get too far into that, though, we have to think of this. Because Patreon offers like rewards for people that sign up for this. So if we have people that are signing up for billions of dollars per year, that's fantastic. What are we offering them?
Success with their professional team or collegiate team that they want us to attend and support.
Okay, but last time we specified what teams we'd be buying.
Okay. So we'll be attending the games. The winning percentage goes up. That's a whole separate thing. We will also own the teams. We will crowdsource opinions on how to run the teams that we buy. So you will have direct input on how the team exists.
Okay. I'm on. I'm down. I'll get that.
As far as I know, our track record is at least 1-0 when all three of us have been in attendance for a sporting event.
Now, are we saying that when we've been there together or just been in the same stadium?
As far to my knowledge, I think it's when we've been there together.
Okay.
I don't know of a singular event that we've attended where we've been in the same stadium but not been near each other at the same time.
I know Andy and I have been.
Yes.
But I don't remember if that was.
I don't think Nate was.
If Nate was there or not. So
No.
I feel like we had to specify that.
Yes. It does, because the track record shows when all three of us
All three, yep.
Then we're undefeated. I mean, that's just plain and simple.
Yep, 1-0. Don't worry about the sample size. It is a proven scientific fact. So,
yeah.
Again, just something to consider. If you would like your team to win, $1 billion a year sounds pretty reasonable to us. So,
yeah, and that's expenses, lodging, food, room and border. Like it's all factored into that, and we have to buy gear for those specific teams too. So like we gotta factor into clothing expenses and everything.
Yeah. You gotta have the good fit checks every game day.
Yeah, you don't want us to go to a Minnesota Twins game wearing Kansas City Royals stuff or Red Sox stuff, or like that doesn't make any sense. Like who would do that?
With the vibe, nope.
No, so you gotta support the team that we're supporting, and your contribution to us will help us achieve that goal.
I could not have said it any better myself.
I'm with it. Let's get on this. But since we are here talking about MLB, though, we should actually make a prediction of who we think's going to win.
I think it'll be Yankees in 6. I think they have a better bullpen than LA does. And now a lot of the Dodgers does rely on high scoring games. I mean, they scored a lot of runs on the Mets, and the Mets bullpen. I mean, the Mets were kind of riding the magic of Grimace and just weird things happening to get where they were. But in terms of bullpen, I think the Yankees have a slightly better bullpen and starting pitcher rotation outside of Garrett Cole. Garrett Cole sucks. He's absolutely garbage, and that's because I hate him as a person, but also because he plays for the Yankees. But he's
no bias here.
No bias at all. Even though I'm
None
picking the Yankees, but I think it'll be Yankees in 6. I think the way that they just destroy. I mean, they didn't destroy Cleveland, but I mean, there were just every time you get the Judge, Soto, Giancarlo back to back to back. I mean, that's just you're asking for trouble putting any of them on. And Giancarlo is having a hell of a playoff run right now, despite you would think Judge and Soto. I mean, Soto's also been fantastic, but yeah, I think the Yankees have a better bullpen compared to LA. But unfortunately, I do think they win number 20 something, whatever it is, cheating World Series titles, whatever.
Again, no bias.
No bias at all.
Fine. I'll do the hot take. I'll say Dodgers in 7. I think the game goes to, the series goes to 7.
And I would love that.
I think I'll go similar. I'll go Yankees in 7. Yeah, I mean
we're gonna look like a bunch of
Yankees
fools, and one of them wins it in 4.
Yeah, Yankees have lost 2 games in their series so far. I don't know. I agree with you, Andy, that pitching is probably better. And I mean, Soto, Judge, Giancarlo Stanton. They got Jazz Chisholm sitting there too if they want some steals. Yeah.
And we can't rely on playoff Kershaw to choke away a game because he's not pitching. So it's probably good for LA, but bad for viewers because those were electric times.
So yeah, that's ooh. You can feel the excitement in the air for the Fall Classic.
I can't wait for April for opening day.
Hell yeah.
But I suppose that brings us into our next segment here, the NBA. Starting as of our recording, starts tomorrow. By the time this comes out, we'll probably have a few games under our belt as the season gets underway. But I believe the Knicks-Celtics kick off the season tomorrow evening, and then that's followed up by the Timberwolves and Lakers as the nightcap. So should be, at least on paper, some pretty fun games. I mean, you got the defending champs against, or a pretty intriguing team with the Knicks that Tibbs likes to throw out the guys for. I mean, he'd run them out there for 80 minutes if he could. But
Yes.
I got so confused. I got so confused for 2 seconds, Nate. I thought you were saying the defending champs was the Timberwolves. I was like, that didn't happen, did it? Did I miss something? I thought you were making a joke.
No, but that's an interesting segue into the WNBA of the Lynx actually won the 2024 championship last night. If you don't factor in the 25-8 free throw attempt disparity.
Absolutely no bias whatsoever.
None.
Yeah, if you're, I'll plug my personal Twitter here if you're interested in some questionable calls down the stretch that went the Liberty's way and decided the game more or less. They exist. They're out there. The Liberty was a great team. Don't want to take that away from them, but just the way that that game ended was a little sus. Kind of sours me on the WNBA for a bit. I was excited. Like if it's a loss, it's a loss. And there were just a lot of hints that there were some extra things in play there. So
there were very much questionable calls that Nate.
If you're into fun conspiracy theories that might actually not be theories, that's an interesting one to delve into. But I'll bring it back to the NBA again, starting Tuesday with a couple good games, and then I believe Zach, the Suns play Wednesday and
Correct.
Thunder play Thursday.
Thursday. Yep.
Okay.
Dang, so we all have games in a row that aren't on the same day for the opening week. That's pretty sweet.
Correct.
Yeah, so it's exciting. We were getting back into just the quadruple sports kind of intersection here, where we have hockey, basketball, baseball, and football all going on. Some volleyball sprinkled in there too. So we're getting into that great time of year.
Spoiler alert: as a Nebraska fan, volleyball is the only sport that we actually are
participating in.
With. So, again, spoiler. Continue. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna open the floor to you guys. I mean, I could talk for years on Timberwolves and what I think's gonna happen there, but I'll open the floor to you guys on what you think of, NBA in general and even your team specifically.
Yeah, it's definitely all of the attention's going to be on, Boston and can they repeat. As far as I remember, they didn't really do a whole lot of losing pieces. If they did, I don't remember them, but they should have a core of their team back again. So they're definitely poised to make another run. And, now
Al Horford is still somehow playing. So.
Dude, I know we had this talk before. I can only picture him in a Hawks jersey. And
I can only picture him in a Florida Gators jersey, and that's almost worse.
But if you look at that's going to be a storyline, and then the other storyline that we had talked about was, it's going to be you have this cluster of the West teams where you have 8 to 10 potential teams fighting for the top seed, and then you have the East where you have the Knicks and the Celtics, and that's really about it. So out of the East, it's going to have to be a surprise team that we didn't know about that was coming. I don't really know who that is. You could always throw Milwaukee in there just because Giannis is still a part of that team, but
and Dame.
Can they finally get it together and make a run for Boston? But no
Jimmy
other teams.
Butler is always
and the Heat are always there, but it's just none of them, especially with how Boston played last year. You're gonna have to be perfection every single game if you made them in a playoff series. It's just, I don't foresee Boston taking a dip this year. Like I said, they didn't really lose anybody, so they return a lot of their pieces. But yeah, in terms of the West, it's literally going to be the wild, wild West of who comes out on top. All three of our teams are definitely in contention. You obviously have the Mavs, you have the Lakers. Well, maybe the Lakers. I don't actually know.
I hope not.
I hope. None of us want that, but I don't actually know.
I will say LeBron. I don't know. He's playing good this summer. We'll see if that transitions into the rest of the season.
How
Then
much
you
longer do we
obviously-
actually think LeBron has in the league before we get too
Dude,
far?
I don't
By the
know.
way.
Every time I think like this is gonna be the last year, he keeps putting up literally like 25.
I was gonna say
catches
the
in a
thing with
game.
him. The thing with him is he seems like he's always like mad healthy for his age. And
I
I know NBA is a little easier on your body than like the NFL. Duh, but like it's just crazy how what is he 36? He's something like that.
Yeah.
It's just
It's-
I mean he's basically at this point going to be the Tom Brady of the NBA.
Right.
Now
He's
whether that translates
39
to this thing-
actually
is he really?
Yeah.
Holy cow!
Yeah.
turns 40 in December.
I mean, you
You
have
got to assume he's got to be that done.
right. There's so many pieces. I mean, you look at the Mavs who kind of made their magical run last year in the playoffs. Year 2 of Wemby and the Spurs. I don't know how much better the Spurs will be, but you still have Wemby in year 2, and then they got Chris Paul in the offseason, which again, I don't know if that'll actually help or not. Zach might have more takes on Chris Paul, but
I don't have anything against him. I mean, it
I'd say
sucks that he was never very like solid in the playoffs when we definitely needed him that year. But
In the role they're gonna put him in, like he's just gonna be there to get the ball to Wemby. So I mean that
pretty much.
you're not relying on him to be a top scorer or anything. So
No.
that at least helps his
It is-
chances of being.
it is so unfortunate
productive.
that Wemby's nickname is so close to Gumby because that's all I can ever associate him with is just he's so tall and lanky. I'm just like Gumby.
And then you have, we're probably seeing the last of the Warriors. Clay in the offseason went to Dallas, so pretty much have Steph and Draymond and whoever else is on their team. Jordan Poole, I think, is still on their team, but
Nah, Jordan Poole's in Washington,
oh well. Yeah, see, that's how much I know of.
He and Draymond got in that brawl before last season. Remember
Well,
that?
that's right.
Yeah.
That doesn't narrow down
Buddy
brawls
Hield.
for Draymond.
Buddy
Nate.
Hield went to the Warriors now. I think he got dealt. I think Buddy Hield in like
Yeah,
that
Buddy
trade
Hield's there.
with Sacramento that also sent like DeMar to Sacramento.
They got Jonathan Kuminga, Brandon
Yeah.
Pachimski, so they got a couple younger guys that are
So it's just
Can fill in,
I'm
but-
biased for the West teams, but like there's just so many more intriguing West team stories than there are like on the East side. So I mean it's gonna be like I said, the literal wild west of who comes out. And New Orleans is gonna be there. I mean they were quiet last year in terms of getting in the play-in game, but I mean they were still 49-33, so it's not like they had a
Still got
terrible
Zion.
season either.
They added
Yeah.
Dejounte Murray from the Hawks.
Right.
So,
So,
Yep.
And then I guess if Ja stays healthy and gets out of legal trouble for Memphis, they might be something. But
I'm so excited
kinda
to see him and Zach Edey just strapped up walking into the game.
So it's going to be, and obviously I haven't even mentioned my team, the Thunder now. So it's going to be interesting. They had some early preseason injuries that might take shape of how they do their center. Because I know they got Isaiah Hartson in the offseason, and he's probably out for probably a month or so.
I think till December or so.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see when they traded for him, he was going to be their center, and now which way the Thunder go. But I mean, you still got Shai, for the Thunder, and he's pretty much going to be your team leader and role there.
So
And
you got Shea, you got Jalen Williams, Chet,
I mean, the Thunder, and then
the ball assassin.
who was there's a certain team that has to finish dead last or something like this year, and the Thunder get that first round contentional pick.
Oh,
And it's
I
like
don't know off the top of my head, but
there's
yeah.
a chance that like the Thunder could get Cooper Flag next year from that wild, bizarre, Thunder trading all their draft picks away, and suddenly, this is what they get. So
I have no basis for this other than a guess, but I feel like it's an insult to injury moment. I feel like it's got to be like Detroit or something.
yeah, probably the Pistons are one of the worst teams.
Speaking
last year.
of, I don't know why or how. I was looking at like just some preseason stuff for the Suns. And then like when I had clicked on this was like 2 weeks ago. When I had clicked on it, it was like, oh, the Suns are playing, I think, in Detroit tonight. And Detroit was like a 2.5 point favorite. And I understand like basketball can be really close. But I was like, Detroit is a 2.5 point favorite to the Suns. are the Suns playing their third string?
I
I understand that I'm biased with the Suns, but I was like, how is Detroit favored? I was like, what? Like,
are you betting on preseason basketball, Zach? Are you that
I was
much
not.
of a sicko?
I was not. I was looking at that and I'm like, really? Did I miss something? So I was looking. I couldn't find any like reasonable like immediate thing that jumped out. Like, oh, that's why, because none of the starters are playing or something. But like,
right.
I was like, how? But then I guess Detroit actually did like pretty decent like they went 3-2, which is not amazing, but they didn't do bad.
It's all preseason. It's fine.
I mean,
doesn't make a difference.
I'm banking on the Pistons winning like at least 40 games, because then that converts the pick that the Timberwolves got from the Knicks to, I believe, an unprotected one, top 10. So we're riding the Pistons bandwagon.
Hell yeah.
I know nothing of the Pistons other than just remembering that when I was like in 6th grade, hating them because I would play against them in NBA Live 06 or whatever, and I hated like Ben Wallace, and I didn't hate them specifically.
Prince, Chauncey
Billups. I was like, man, I hated them because somehow I was playing on like, it was ridiculous.
Oh,
anyway.
it's the Clippers for Oakland or for OKC. So the Thunder next year already have a protected 1-6 pick and a 1-14 pick from Philadelphia and Miami. And then depending on how Houston or LA or the Clippers do, they could get another protected 1-10 pick.
I'm just really glad they keep these things very clear cut for the casual fan, because that's very easy to follow all of that.
The Thunder have so many draft picks next year that are all protected, like 1-32 picks, and it's all half of them are all based on how the teams do this year. But I don't expect them to keep all of that. They're definitely going to use it as trade capital, but it's insane. Or they just
decide to just be like, okay, you guys did great this year, goodbye, and just draft an entire new team of rookies.
It's absolutely insane how, and I know we had talked about this, like how much the Thunder's owners were playing 5D chess years ago for this exact moment.
They took the Celtics model of like, yeah, we're going to have all the picks for the next 2 years, and then quadrupled.
And the hopes of the team, and then the team finally started to win and got the #1 seed next year. So, yeah, it's definitely working out for them. If I were to say,
I think there's irrefutable proof of that too.
Yeah,
I mean, if we're just being again objective, which we are nothing but objective on this show.
Absolutely,
yes,
no bias whatsoever.
But preseason,
Suns winning the Suns, I guess.
Preseason predictions. In terms of like who I think is going to, be in the finals or be one of the teams in the finals. Obviously in the East, I think it's just a given. You pick Boston right now until we're proven otherwise. For the West, I don't think anybody picked Dallas last year to make that little run in the playoffs, but I'm gonna go Nate's nice team. I think either the Wolves or Thunder are gonna be there in the finals, and that's just. As much as I think Denver will be there, and you obviously they're going to be there because Jokic is.
They just have so many injuries.
Yeah, I know. I mean, you can still win games with Nicolo and run your offense through him, but he's only going to be able to do so much until teams figure out how to play Denver when they're injured.
Maybe having Russ come off the bench is going to help him, but I don't know.
Until he starts bricking threes like he always does.
What? He doesn't do that.
Have you seen recent film of him there? He kind of does that a lot.
No, I can't. I don't go out of my way to watch Russ.
No. So I think in the West, when it all comes down, I think it's going to be between Minnesota and OKC for who gets that final playoff spot, which that's going to be a hell of a series for Nate and I.
Yeah, I was gonna say, even as the resident Suns fan here, I think the Suns will have a bounce back year compared to last year. I don't think Frank Vogel's system worked well for them, so they went and got one that has a proven track record of winning at least one in Mike. What's his last name?
Budenholzer.
Yeah. So also,
You're saying Mike Connolly, and I go, no, he's a basketball player.
He's my
No.
basketball player.
I saw when I watched the press conference when they announced him as the new head coach. And I was like, this is the same guy. And apparently he went big on Ozempic or whatever because he lost 50 pounds or something. You can just tell when he was coaching for Milwaukee, he was not fat, but he was very much chubby. And then you look at him now, it's like, are you okay?
Hey, I mean, you're doing well in Milwaukee. You're probably having a few cheese curds here and there. I respect it. We'll spot cow every now and again.
I was gonna say having had
for that.
having had cheese curds from Wisconsin specifically, being there and getting them from there, they're fantastic. So I get it.
Yeah.
I think for the Suns at least, just this is my overall picture. I think they'll make a good playoff run, provided that the team gels together under a new head coach and all the new system and everything. But I think it's really gonna come down to, can Bradley Beal finally stay healthy?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's not necessarily going to be the game changer. That for anybody that knows anything about the Suns, it's always going to go through Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. That would be stupid to not do that. But really, the exciting one to watch this year is the Ryan Dunn, the new rookie they got.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, he's just been popping off. So, and I'm saying apparently, as in I really have not paid any attention. I don't really pay much attention to the preseason stuff. I pay attention to the contracts and stuff and the beat writers and whatnot, but I don't watch it. So come tomorrow, as of this recording, I will. So who knows when we record this next week, I'll be like, well, it's either going to be Suns are back all the way to the championship, or I'm going to drop my fandom, because as we know, we're nothing as fans but fickle. So
you're right.
Yeah, I think at least in the West, I honestly do think that Phoenix is kind of the most interesting team to me, because they're I mean, obviously anecdotally, but it took the Timberwolves a year to get Rudy and the whole Mike Conley trade, everything, just to figure it out with the players. And then the year after, it turned out pretty well. And so, I mean, following that recipe, it has worked in the past, and I think it could certainly work for Phoenix. And if, like I said, if Bradley Beal can stay healthy for at least the majority of the season, get those reps, you have, I believe they traded for Tyus Jones in the offseason, so you'll actually have kind of a true point guard to help facilitate the offense more. So
it's going to be great.
I think.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think you're right. I think they have a really good setup for their roster. It's just, one, can they play together really well, because it's all under a new head coach? And then two, what is the new system that Mike B brings in? That, because like I said, I think Frank Vogel, not a bad head coach, but definitely not made for the Suns.
Yeah.
But then I to that same point, the Suns have been in ownership hell for years, up until the last couple with Matt Ishbia or whatever his name is. And he was like, yeah, we didn't win, and we were supposed to be doing a lot better last year. So he fired the head coach. I'm like, some might have seen that as a little quick, but I'm like, he knows what he wants. I can't argue. At least he's looking like he cares. So I'll be really curious to see how this year goes. But I do stick to your point, Nate. I think they're interesting, but I don't think it's going to happen this year. If anything, it might happen. The problem is that if we're banking on Kevin Durant still being with the Suns, it's the
windows,
windows, and then how much longer does he have? And I mean, he might have just as long as LeBron, and he's only 30. He's the third one I was thinking was 36. So he might have a few years yet, and he's still playing well, relatively. It's not prime KD, but it's good enough.
Yeah, I guess I think my hot take will be that I think the Timberwolves end up closer to a 4 seed by the end of the year. I think they'll be good, and I think they'll figure it out, but I think the timing of the trade for DiVincenzo and Julius Randle is going to take a bit to figure out how to get all those parts moving together. Because, I mean, Karl Anthony Towns has been the staple of the Timberwolves since 2015, 2016 when he was drafted. And I mean, even just the past 4 years with Ant coming in, it's been Ant, Cat, we brought in Rudy, but those are kind of your primary offensive guys, and the offense is going to have to fundamentally shift a bit with just losing Karl Anthony Towns. So that being said, I think the Wolves make the finals, but I don't. I think Oklahoma City finishes as the 1 seed pretty handily. Unless something crazy happens, I don't see any reason why, especially once they get Hartenstein back in a month or two. Like, there's all doomed. And then East, I would assume comes down to Boston or the Knicks. There's a handful of teams there, here and there. A couple players, Jimmy Butler. You got Halliburton at Indiana, could put up a fight. Giannis, Trae Young, but I think your top tier in the East is probably going to be Boston and New York. So I think I'll do the fun homer NBA Finals prediction of Wolves Knicks. I think that'd be I would be interested in that.
That seems fair. I don't think I'm going to make a prediction like that because I know better than to do that.
It should be an exciting season. Kind of like you guys both said, where all of our teams are in the Western Conference, and the Western Conference shaping up to be a slugfest for the umpteenth year in a row. So should be exciting. Kicks off Tuesday, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
But,
I will say, okay, fine. You know what? You got me. But mine's going to 100% be a homer pick. Mine's 100% be I don't know. I've got faith. The Suns are going to do it. Suns are going to do it. And then the Knicks are going to, or not the Knicks. Well, you know what? I'll take the Knicks too. I like that. I don't want to see the Celtics in there. So I'm just going to hope for the best with the Knicks taking it. Although that's where it's going to come down to is I'm going to be heartbroken again. I think the Knicks would win it. I think they're going to be the stronger team in that matchup.
All right. Andy, do you have an official finals prediction then to round it out? Or?
Oh no,
your microphone might be muted. Sorry.
Your microphone's gone.
Oh, it was there.
Oh,
see,
I thought we lost him. I was like, where'd he go?
No, I thought it was muted, to be quite honest with you. No, I don't. I mean, I don't want to say the Thunder because that's a biased pick, but it's also an easy.
It's not
as if we didn't do that.
Yeah,
but if this changes your mind, Andy, this is I think an older article, maybe last week. ESPN has the Oklahoma City Thunder at a 12.5% chance to win the title, and they're number 2 behind
Boston
Celtics.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
I mean,
the homer pick might not be a bad one. Although then they have the 76ers, which, as a resident Philadelphia fan on our podcast, at least in football, you never bet on Philadelphia for anything.
No, absolutely not.
So that's a bold.
I mean, I'll say Boston and the Thunder just for funsies.
Wow,
be stressful, but yeah, I know, right? We know ball though. We think.
Yep,
you guys do. You guys
heard it here first. All of our picks will be correct by the end of the season. Don't look into that or fact check it, but
all of our picks are going to be correct. Don't ask how, but it's going to happen. Actually, I can already see it. I can see it. One of our teams is going to make it in the West. And then for some reason, it's going to be like, no, we can't have them because they cheated somehow throughout the season. So they have to forfeit. Goes to the next team. And then they find out that team did the same thing somehow. Then it goes to the third team. So technically, we'd all win in that case. But it's going to have to happen on the East too.
Yeah, the math checks out to me there.
It technically would be true. Oh, we're in the finals. Oh, never mind.
I believe
it. I'm not going to figure that out, but I believe it can happen. So
there's a lot of moving parts that have to make it work, but I can see it. I can see it.
All right, but I think that wraps up NBA talk. Again, protest the Liberty winning the WNBA championship.
Yes,
but that's that I will.
For Liberty. Or sorry, it's the Lynx, wasn't it? That is Minnesota. # Justice for Lynx.
Yes.
But, moving on to The ice. Are the Minnesota
Rockies?
Wild going to win the Stanley Cup?
Oh my God!
Just gonna say it
Colorado
now.
Avalanche
The Minnesota
down.
Wild might be a wagon.
Calm the F down.
They might be a wagon.
Calm down.
The streets are saying.
You still have Dallas to contend with, and Dallas is actually pretty good.
Hey. Just because they might be a wagon doesn't mean that the wagon isn't going to lose a wheel somewhere. Okay. let's we can. I have to have somebody to cheer for because my team is horrible. They are right now the worst team in the NHL, and of course I'm like, I liked their playoff run last year. They seem like a scrappy team. I'll go with them.
You and San Jose are competing there for the worst in the league, though. So you have that.
San Jose has 2 points, though, at least.
They do.
I was gonna say Nashville is the only team that has none. They are objectively the worst team.
Nada.
Master.
And I guess I'll just use that and I'll be quick about it because there's not much to talk about. But the problem with the Preds right now is that they are one of the highest. I think I read, I don't know, they're like in the top 5 for like shooting or like shots taken or shots attempted. So it's not like they're not getting shots. They're just not going in, which on some levels, like that's really unlucky. Like at some point they need to get them to go in, but then they're also giving up, I think, damn near the most goals. So it's like they can't make shots and then they can't save them either. Call me crazy. And again, I don't know hockey that well, but I'm going to go on record and say it's probably not a real good combination. So long season ahead still, but starting that low and that bad, especially with the differentials they have, I think they are not the worst in differential though. That's impressive.
Right.
They are the Sharks have that record. So, yeah, Preds not good, but it's one of those things where if they get their first win, sounds so crazy to say that, but if they get their first win, I think it's going to be that one. It's like, okay, we can do it. We figured out how to do it against that team, whoever it is. Then they can go from there and actually build the confidence off of a win. I think that's all they really need is just to get a win.
Right.
But we'll see. But back to the wagon that is the Wild.
Thank you.
All right, calm down.
I actually just got confirmation that the trophy is en route to the Xcel Energy Center as we speak. So, yeah, I guess that's another sports season that's just wrapped up already. So, I'm sorry to everyone else. I guess I don't make the rules here. This just is what it is.
If I will say this in the Western Conference, since we're all we're all Western Conference teams.
We're all the same division too.
We need to bring Jet back in because he started watching hockey, and his team is the one that's leading the West right now.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, they have one less game played than Dallas, but the Winnipeg Jets are 5-0.
Yeah, Hellebuck is like a fantastic goalie. And I know when the Avs played him in the playoffs last year, the Avs did beat the Jets, but Hellebuck, I think that's how you say his name. I think he was goalie of the year last year. And I think he's one of the top goalies in the league right now, only allowing like a little over a goal a game, which is pretty darn impressive. So he's, and I haven't watched much of, any of the teams outside of the Avs, but I know Hellebuck is a really, really good goalie. It turns out, like you said last week, Zach, kind of needing a goalie in hockey kind of keeps you in games, believe it or not.
And again, even as a Preds fan, like Juice, what's his last name? I never remember this because it's so weird. But like Juice is his nickname, or I think it's his actual name, but like he goes by just like Juice, like Juice Box. He's apparently supposed to be a good goalie, but apparently this year just decided, you know what? Nah, Saros, that's his name. Like dumb.
Yeah, it's insane how having a goalie can keep you in games and can win you games, believe it or not. So
is the goalie like the kicker in football then? I mean, I know they're a little different, but like, the kicker can absolutely make or break a game for you. You don't necessarily you shouldn't have to lean on them for everything, but they can absolutely be like very detrimental.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like a goalie is far more important than a kicker in football, but I feel like
Yeah.
they kind of share a role in that regard.
I can get on board with that analogy.
Which I only bring the analogy up because as Nebraska fans and how terrible we are at kicking, it seems fitting that my goalie is also terrible.
What do you mean?
Nothing.
Just told you.
Can't be bad at field goals if you don't kick field goals.
That is a
Big
good point.
brain
That is a good point.
move.
I still maintain this though too. Going back to the hockey talk real quick, where did New Jersey come from? Like, and again, I know we just kind of really started delving into hockey, so obviously asking that is like, well, we don't know. But like, I'm sitting here, I'm like, I thought last year I should just go look, but like I thought last year they weren't very good. Maybe they came back at the end. No, they were near the end. They were near the bottom last year. And so then this year, they're just like, oh, hey, we don't suck anymore. Okay.
They just came out, you know?
They
really did,
considered
though.
getting good, and then they did it.
I mean, I'm guessing they just did some massive overhauls. I didn't keep up on the.
Mm-hmm.
Makes me feel a little better, though, because the other team I was between was Carolina. And I was like, well, they're not doing that great either. So
Nate supports that.
They're still doing better. So
because weather.
Yeah.
I just like it.
Skinny go burr.
It did go burr. 2 of them, in fact.
Many more to come.
Many more to come.
And I know we talked about them last week too, but Utah still continues to be like good.
They're soaking the league right now.
Some would say super soaking.
Oh man, I bet you got a lot of those jokes. Can you give me more, man?
No, actually.
Well, never mind then.
That was my quota for the episode. Sorry,
well, gosh dang it! I don't ask for much from you guys, but here we are. So that's the take though. Minnesota Wild's a wagon. Andy and I are living in. Well, Andy isn't fully there, but
the Avs started to win some games.
I am in hockey hell.
What's wild is if you look at like the top points leader in the NHL right now, the Avs have 3 out of the top 5 people in terms of who is tied for total points in the league. Between McKinnon, Ranson, and Makar are all tied within the top 5, and the Avs are like 2 and 4.
Yeah, it turns out maybe giving up the second most goals.
Goals does not help either.
like I said,
great offensive first line, bottom last in goalie play.
I think having a goalie in hockey might help.
The Avs are covering both ends of the spectrum and doing one really, really well and the other not so well.
Yeah. And then you get to, like I said, you get to Nashville where they have so many they like double the amount of shots they take compared to the other team. And the other team is just like, we're efficient. I'm like, that's awesome. I love it. Love every moment of it.
It's going to go fine, Zach.
It'll be fine. It's a long season.
It is a long season.
Lots of money poured into their guys though. So that's kind of scary.
And my last hockey take that I will have, not even about the NHL. It's about that fun little junior league hockey team that we love to support locally here. Your Lincoln Stars are not only the top team in the Western Conference, they are the top team in the entire USHL right now. Sitting at 8-1. The next closest team would be Zach's Sioux City Musketeers, sitting at 6-2.
I was gonna say I knew for a bit there Sioux City was on top, but I knew they had dropped a couple.
Yes.
So
yeah, the Stars are 8-1 right now. Yeah, like I said, not only atop of the Western Conference, but atop of the entire league right now. And then Sioux City, I think, is probably second overall or tied second for overall.
That's what I'm looking right now just to see.
Because the Madison Capitals are 5-2, so I mean 6-2, 5-2. You probably say that they're all tied for, I guess, total. They also go by total points. So there's 4 teams that are tied with 12 points right now, and the Stars have 16. So well above everybody else. So it's just give them the Clark Cup right now. Just call off the season. We don't need any more junior league hockey. That's it right there. Stars win.
You are correct though. The Lincoln Stars are number 1. Sioux City Musketeers in the West are number 2. So,
and the thing with junior league hockey is like you're gonna have like every couple of years you're gonna have teams that just skyrocket like Fargo did the past couple of years, and then they're probably gonna take a dip because you get these guys for 1 or 2 years before they go to college. So if you keep that team around for like the second year with your quote unquote veterans, you can make a run at these junior league hockey. I mean, the Stars were kind of mid-average last year, and 9 games into the season, they're top of the standings already with only a loss to their name. So it's just kind of how the ebb and flow of junior league hockey is. But it's a great start so far. So if anything else fails, we always have the Lincoln Stars to hold on to.
If anything else fails, he says. Yes.
And for those interested, college hockey did actually start up last weekend. So
obviously, we are not prepared to talk about that. So
no.
my quick plug is that this coming weekend slate looks kind of not bad. Got number 1 Denver against 9 Wisconsin, 19 Minnesota State against 16 Omaha, and number 3 Boston University is traveling to number 6 Grand Forks, North Dakota.
Ooh, go Mavs!
So there might actually be some chatter on the podcast next week if someone gets things in gear and does some research beforehand.
I'm starting to. That sounds like at least one of us needs to do that then.
Sounds like somebody's already volunteering himself for doing
That's
that.
what I just heard. You're going to hear all the hot takes from Nate.
You got it, Zach.
When does that one happen? Is that this weekend or is that soon? Like
the matches that I just called out will be this coming weekend. So I believe Friday, Saturday.
Well, I think I should be able to do that. So I suppose I'll fall on the sword.
Hell yeah. Before we get to football, we could do just a quick note about our volleyball school because we are a volleyball school.
We are a volleyball school.
And nothing else.
I didn't know there was anything else we could be at the school.
You're right,
bowling.
Chris. Yeah, we
True,
are bowling.
true.
We are a bowling school and a soccer school.
Rifle, right?
And rifle, yes.
Yeah.
We are among many things that are not football.
Weren't we also really good at I don't know if it was called quiz bowl or debate. Weren't we really good at that one year? Maybe that was somebody else. That might have been a sickos thing I saw. It was just like a random thing they shared. Check out these guys.
We were a baseball school last year.
True.
I mean, we were a lot of things.
To be fair, baseball just signed a dude with the first name Jeter.
First name Jeter.
So,
his brother is already a pitcher on the team.
Sky's the limit.
Sky's the limit. But volleyball, still the only blemish to their name. Sitting at 18-1 right now, still number 2 in the nation, behind Pittsburgh, who is also a 1-loss team. But you can give or take.
They moved up to number 1 today.
I don't know. Well,
I'm looking.
Let's look. AVCA rankings. Either way, we are obviously a volleyball school and nothing else.
It is Pitt.
Yeah.
Is it? I thought I saw somebody that I guess I thought.
I think I know which graphic you're talking about, and I think that's power rankings.
Oh, maybe that's what it was. Okay.
So I know exactly because I saw the graphic show up on my timeline earlier today, and I know exactly which one you're referring to.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it is still Pitt. I mean, records are identical. They're 17-1, 18-1 for us. But
who did Pitt lose to?
Almost positive they lost to SMU as well.
I was gonna say it was pretty sure
it was the same team. SMU should be number 1 then. Clearly,
SMU's got top 1 and top 2 win on their resume.
That is hilarious. Although when they beat us, were we ranked number 1 or 2? I thought we were 4 at that point. I didn't think we were quite number 1 yet.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Let's look. We were number.
It was definitely a top 5 win for them.
We were 2 because
we
won that game because I think Texas had lost. We would have gone to number 1.
Yeah, that's right.
So there was all that talk of like, yes, Texas lost. Like, if we win this game, we'll go to number 1, and then we got swept.
Well, should have never said that.
Yeah, right. But by the time this episode comes out, they got 2 home games this weekend of Illinois and Michigan. Probably should win those and probably sweep 1 or 2 of them. But the bigger matchup is going to be next week. They go to Madison, face the Badgers next weekend. So we can talk about that more next week, but that's going to be definitely their toughest test since they kind of came off the Purdue, Stanford, Louisville type games, which incredible that Nebraska swept both Stanford and Louisville. And then they had that thrilling 5-setter against Purdue. But yeah, it's volleyball school. Our girls are our life and our passion because they're the only thing that brings us joy right now, and nothing else.
This is while it's true, while it's not incorrect, that is very dire. I mean, yes, I did also watch the game on Saturday, so I mean, I get your point. But dang, that makes it sound like all hope is gone.
Right. All right, now we can go to the NFL, and I will save my team for last when we talk about kind of like our teams all together type. So we had the Doug Peterson hot seat game, which he magically pulled off. So he's not going to get fired when Jacksonville lands sometime probably today in the U.S. So if you were up watching that sicko game, congrats to those that did watch. Nate. It's even worse for you. It was an earlier game.
Oh, wait, were you working overnights?
I work a fun schedule.
Well, so I was going to say,
we'll leave it at that.
No, I was only asking because if you
did you willingly get up for it?
That's what I was asking. If you willingly got up for that, you are
okay.
nuts.
I was gonna say like you are a true sicko to get up at 6:30 to watch that.
Because if you were like, no, I got up and I watched, like, no, I completely forgot about it.
Yeah.
It was the primetime game of the week. What do you mean you guys missed it?
No thanks.
It was a game.
I feel bad for London.
Yeah.
Why do they keep sending us these teams?
My favorite thing is that the next game we're sending Europe is Panthers Giants.
So Munich.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, Roger,
I don't want to be dramatic, but that might actually be a war crime.
No, it's gonna be a war crime.
Maybe we're just doing it on purpose at this point.
I think
maybe somehow people know prior to the season even starting. And yeah, I'm not quite buying into the script conspiracy yet, clearly, but I don't know. Maybe that's what they were doing.
Teams are bad. The Jags just happen to be better than the Patriots. The Patriots are bad. Drake May is okay and good.
Drake May is going to be good if they actually have anyone that can block
for
more than 1.5 seconds.
Yeah.
Or the receivers that can catch the ball. Yeah. The Patriots are just bad.
The fact that Drake May had almost 300 yards passing is
exactly.
Crazy.
Drake May is obviously not the issue with the Patriots. It's everything else about them.
It is still just shocking to me that Duke's Mayo or whatever is using Will Levis for their Mayo commercials when they had.
He didn't even start the game. Mason Rudolph played for them against the Bills, which they lost.
Isn't Will Levis hurt?
Yeah,
he
got a shoulder injury.
Well, it's what happens when you start taking, when you start trying to play Spider-Man.
Have no regard for your own life on the football field.
Hey, man.
See also
Speaking of the biggest news, guess who's coming back on Sunday?
And not wearing a Guardian cap.
Sorry, he's aiming for a return on Sunday.
He is not wearing a Guardian cap. He says he's just going to play as normal, which that's going to go well.
Yeah.
Right?
Nothing bad will happen.
Nope. Speaking, I guess if we want to keep on the injury train, the 49ers keep dying. Ducks, right?
I mean, okay. Again, I've said this before. I'm just a fan of good football, so it does actually suck when like good players go down.
Yeah.
But like when it's the 49ers, I'm a little less like
I mean, they
darn.
really literally running out of options. Debo
Well, 'cause-
started the game, then went out. Ayuk's done for the season. Jawan Jennings didn't even play that game. So you have George Kittle and Jordan Mason. And
McCaffrey might try playing in November.
at this rate, I would just say sit the season out, bud.
Well, because they don't have like the worst schedule, or sorry, not the worst record right now, but they're what, 3-4. So I mean, they're not. They have
Or
kind of
3
a big.
Yeah, because it was week 7. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're 3-4, and then they just I don't know. They
I mean, their
don't
only real
look the same.
competition in the West is Seattle.
Hey, the Eagles might be on the come up.
In the West?
Are you talking the NFC West?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Oh gosh, dang it! My brain went to like how basketball worked, and just like didn't even think about the NFC AFC part of it. I'm still waking up, guys.
This week.
I'm still waking up, guys. I haven't had my coffee today.
Yeah,
definitely
they told
record
me
this
that
early in
we
the
were
morning.
switching directions.
Yeah.
Hey, I
sorry.
tried to do that last week too. Don't worry.
You are
I just
correct.
put people in their geographical locations when it wasn't true, and
Okay.
Roger should consult me.
That means it'll be my turn next week. Good to know.
Yeah. But then obviously, I think the biggest injury news that I'm not going to say we applaud, but we're not upset that a certain quarterback's Achilles did explode this weekend. And it's not the quarterback that I've always talked about this entire year. He didn't play great last night, but his Achilles is still intact. The famous Deshaun Watson is done for the season. And insane wild takes that Cleveland fans were seen cheering when he was down on the field and down on the ground being carted off. Absolutely. If you want to tell me how your fan base feels about Deshaun Watson, just have them cheer when he gets hurt.
I just am curious if like this, because if that ends the season, does he come back to Cleveland next year? I think he's got a contract, but do they just bite it? And then does he just quit playing football? Because I don't think any team's going to want him after this year.
Hey man, Denver did it too. So
Deshaun to Denver next year?
No.
Oh.
No.
Oh.
No.
Speaking of,
I would willingly pick a new team for an entire year if that happened.
honestly, like in that regard, there was talk at one point of like Deshaun Watson going to the Eagles. And I was like, if he goes to the Eagles, I'm done. Like, I will support a different team. I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, screw Deshaun Watson. Like I said, I don't cheer for injury. Like, we all say this. We don't cheer for injuries on the football field, but there are certain ones that when they happen, I'm like, darn, that sucks.
Play super games, win super prizes.
Correct. But going back to Aaron Rodgers real quick, the other Achilles master. Did you guys see, like, one of the sports or like one of the media folks asked him like, well, how do you like in the locker room, how do you tell everybody to keep their spirits up and everything? And he says, well, they need to stop listening to you guys. Number one, like, oh yeah, it's their fault. It's their fault that you guys are 2-4.
Remember,
2-5.
The Jets' problem was Robert Saleh. He was obviously the issue, and not Aaron Rodgers wanting all of his friends on this team.
It's like that tweet I sent you guys. Yeah,
just one more Aaron Rodgers.
One more Aaron Rodgers friend.
Aaron Rodgers friend, and then the Jets will be fine.
That'll be the magic trick there.
Which, you know what? To a degree, I was like, maybe there's some logic to it. If he would have targeted Devontae Adams in the second half yesterday, and of course, I'm sure it's like, well, maybe he was double covered or whatever. It's like at that point, if he's such a good player. And Aaron Rodgers at least has a couple good throws in him every now and then. Place the ball, which he's so good at, and make Devontae go get it. Like, I don't know. I'm just so confused because it's like,
it's probably not going great when you're running back as your leading receiver.
No, but Breece Hall had a hell of a game, though.
He did.
You know who else had a hell of a game in that game?
Fantasy points.
You know who else had a hell of a game? Russell Wilson.
Dude, that first half, I felt entirely vindicated about the entire trade because he played exactly how he played the entire 2 years in Denver. And granted, there was one of the touchdown drives that his receivers bailed him out big time. The George Pickens, 15-time juggled catch, and then I think Firemouth had the one-handed snag.
That was sweet.
Yeah,
that was a really cool catch.
But I'm like, Russ overthrew him too. He didn't need to, but yeah, Russ looks to be back. Maybe.
Well, he was playing against the Jets, which
Yeah,
their defense is a lot better than their offense, clearly.
Yeah.
But
remember, Robert Saleh was the problem.
Steelers country, let's smelt.
Let's smelt, baby. So it's whether it's Justin Fields or Russell Wilson going forward. Like I'd said at the beginning of the season, the Mike Tomlin will find a way to get that team above 500 and in the playoffs in the first round. Like he does every single year, no matter how stacked the Ravens and Bengals are. He finds a way to get them there, no matter who is playing quarterback. I mean, he had Mason Rudolph, he had Kenny Pickett. I mean, he had everybody since Ben Roethlisberger play quarterback for him, and they just get there regardless. So the Steelers will be fine, no matter who's playing for them.
I will say. Schedule's a little sus.
It is. It is. Their defense is legit though, so I mean they have that to bank on. And when you have TJ Watt rushing you every play, it's like having Max Crosby come at you every play too. It's insane.
Their top 2 wins are Denver and Atlanta at the moment.
It is. And that was a Denver game 2 against when they tried to figure everything out with the offense and Bo Nix and everything. So not that I'm saying that if they played right now, Denver would win again against Pittsburgh, but it'd be much better than the 13-6 game that did happen.
And even then, at that point, 13-6 is still it's a loss, yeah, but it's still not like a bad loss. To your point, that was clearly the offense still trying to kind of figure out what they were doing.
And the defense, I mean, obviously, we'll get into this in a second when we talk about Denver, but I mean, their defense is obviously top tier right now. Again, albeit what they did to the Saints was probably almost a war crime because the Saints are depleted.
But you don't apologize for wins.
We don't apologize for wins. Yeah, Bub means.
He was 3 for 37. He participated.
Yeah, he did participate. That is a word you can use. But yeah, Packers Texans was. I'm still puzzled about the Texans, and it might also be I'm more puzzled about Green Bay as well, because I don't know if Green Bay's defense is good or if the Texans in pass protection is bad. And I know Nate's not going to agree with the Green Bay take, but I mean, just the way that they were getting to Stroud and Stroud had nobody to throw to the entire game, and I don't know if that was the game plan of that or anything, or if the Texans' pass protection is just garbage. But the Packers did win on a walk-off field goal from the former Denver Bronco, Brandon McManus. Incredibly awful person, but a great kicker, which is the theme for kickers this year, apparently, is awful people, but great kickers.
Hey, Justin Tucker's still going strong.
He is. He hasn't done anything yet.
And William the Thrillium. Don't forget about that, man.
Yeah, Nate. If we've seen a common theme so far with kickers, eventually they're going to say something stupid or do something stupid that's going to make everybody hate them. Will's got some time. He's only a rookie, but Tucker's gone this long so far. Nothing's bad. He might be out of the clear for anything that he might say controversial, but I thought the same for Bucker, and here we are, what he said this offseason. So,
a real hero for some people, I'm sure.
Yes. Oh, what else? The Commanders curbed. I mean, for all of the games for the Commanders to not have Jaden Daniels because of injury, this was probably the game to have it against was the Panthers.
But notably, he is still day-to-day, so...
Yes, and it happened on, if I remember correctly, it was the first drive, and I think he just took a shot to the ribs, and that drive, they ran him 3 or 4 times or something like that. So it happened on the Commanders' first drive, but yeah, it was, for a game to not have your starting rookie QB, the Panthers would probably be the game that I would pick to have that happen with. They curb stomped the Panthers 40-7, and conveniently, the Panthers come to Denver next week. So to say I'm excited for that game is an understatement. But
the Panthers were doing so bad, and their only solution was to put Bryce Young back in.
They did. And then they came out today, and whoever their head coach said, he's like, yeah, Andy Dalton's going to play, like, starting Sunday against Denver. So, like, they don't even know what they're doing. But I'm sure Bryce Young doesn't know what he's doing either.
It's definitely not the ownership's fault, though. We can fully
Absolutely not.
say
Why would we do that?
No, we will not blame Tepper.
No, why would we? I'll quickly talk about my game before we get into the Saquon revenge game for Zach before we follow up with Nate's sad talk. Because I do want to talk about your game, Nate, because it was entertaining.
It's not in the context of everything else of the weekend.
Yeah,
not the worst letdown.
Not the worst letdown of all things hindsight 2020.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, but yeah, like we had mentioned, the Saints depleted on offense. The only like concern I had going into that game was Sean Payton's return to New Orleans. It was also Drew Brees being inducted to like the Saints Hall of Fame. So I was more worried about like, is Sean going to get caught up in the emotions of being back in New Orleans, seeing Drew Brees again, watching that induction, and just having that kind of like weird mojo of like, this is a Drew Brees Hall of Fame game. Like the Saints are going to come out and do some weird voodoo stuff. Clearly not the case. The Saints suck on offense. And again, we'll be the first to admit when they started off 2-0, we all thought it's going to be Tampa and New Orleans for the NFC South. And boy, was that a freezing cold take to have.
I think I threw my head in for the Falcons too.
Yeah. And after what the Falcons just did this past weekend, I don't know anymore. So it might be Tampa's division to lose again at this rate. But yeah, the Broncos went in. Again, their defense is just phenomenal right now. And again, this is a game where having Pat Surtain out with a concussion was definitely a game that you did not need Surtain to be in at all. Just let him get healthy because the Saints don't really have a wide receiver 4 as their number 1. Yeah, it was a fun game from the defensive standpoint. It was, Bo is still learning the system, but he definitely stepped up, and Denver's running game finally got going, which has made me very happy to see. So again, it's against the Saints who are injured across the board but like Zach said, we don't apologize for wins. And with the Panthers coming to town to Denver this next weekend, it's going to be even more fun to hopefully put up another 40-7 score like the Commanders did. But that's all I had for my takes. I didn't even think Denver would be 4-3 by week 7. I thought 2-4 or 3-4, something like that. I thought they would be around 500, but I didn't think they would be like over the 500 hump by the time that they get to this stretch, because after Carolina you get the Ravens and Chiefs back to back. So I was just even hoping by that point, if they just had like 3 wins, like that would be great, because I think Denver's preseason total was like 5.5 wins. So like you're 2 wins away from cashing the over on their expected wins for the season already in week 7. So not to say that they couldn't lose out the rest of the year, because they certainly could, but that'd be a major letdown at this point. But on to you, Zach. Saquon's revenge game back to New York, when he said that they didn't think that he'd boo him on his return, and they definitely booed him.
They didn't just boo him. He said when he was going into the stadium, apparently he saw his jersey getting burned by somebody. And I'm like, wow, okay.
For a guy that said that he wanted to remain in New York on Hard Knocks, and the Giants ownership said no, like, it's insanely wild.
I remember talking about this earlier in the year before the season started, that New York is known for their very smart front office moves. And clearly it was proven.
Wait, the
by
Jets
that
or the
game.
Giants?
Both. Because I mean, the big takeaway obviously from that game is that the Eagles finally looked like a competent team that could handle anything was thrown at them. Jalen Hurts actually had a really good day, relatively. Like his stats were not like off the wall, but he was 10 for 14 for 114 yards and a touchdown. And most of those, like a quarter of that came from a 41-yard pass to AJ Brown. Really, the big key story was the Saquon revenge game, getting 176 yards on 17 carries. Now, again, that one was helped by a 51-yard carry, which I was so hoping would go to a touchdown, but came up at like that.
My fantasy team certainly would have loved to have gone to a touchdown too.
I know. I was like, man, I bet Andy didn't like that. But I mean,
he
it
finished with like 27 points, which is fine. But it's insane that, for having 176 yards on the ground, to only finish with like 26 or 27 total fantasy points. Seems a little disappointing, but
it's weird too because there were multiple times where they got down, and I just thought they were just going to keep giving it to Saquon to run it in for a touchdown. But then, basically by like the middle of the third quarter, the Eagles were like, "Okay, we're pulling our players."
The only gripe I have with your team is every time that it's a 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1 situation where 90% of the league would give it to the running back with a fullback dive, your team does this little stupid tush push that gets Jalen Hurts the touchdown, and I get super mad about it.
And I appreciate it.
I get it, but also they have had a couple times where they've run the tush push, but then they do like some weird thing where they like pop it out to a running back or something every now and then. So it's not a guarantee that they're always going to get
which they should do, because most teams know that's coming in, and that's like such a good. As long as you get the edge cornerbacks to bite on it, you can do that flip, and whoever's on the running back has all the daylight on the edge. So,
yep.
I mean, you can't do it every time, or else they'll play for that. But I mean, most teams know when the tush push is coming that it's Jalen taking the ball.
Yeah. I was going to say it's like 95% of the time that goes to him.
I'm mad about, because there's certainly Shaquan had another touchdown yesterday, but it went to Jalen.
I even said that though too. I was like, just give it to Saquon again, just for a second touchdown, just to really like sink the dagger in. But
yeah,
regardless,
he was having a great game.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
That's also fair. Really, the only other couple things I had were, it was nice to see AJ Brown fully back. Like not that he was back against Cleveland, but the offense didn't look great at all against Cleveland, obviously. But this game, they were like, oh yeah, so they do remember they can use them. So, and the defense, that was a defensive game entirely. It was scoreless after the first quarter, because I think there was 8 sacks among the teams total at the end of the game, or something like that. There's more than that, but it was ridiculous. Just sacks left and right on both sides of the ball. So the defense finally seemed to show up. Vic Fangio, I think, is finally starting to find what guys are good at and use them really well. So the team,
I was only a little worried about your defense just because of the fact that Neighbors was back for the Giants, and I'm like, well, I mean, the Giants are obviously not a threat on offense, but Neighbors has been the lone bright spot for the Giants this year.
And
so I was like, and Wandell, and I was like, well, if they can kind of get them going and kind of throw off your corner and your secondary, I mean, the Giants could kind of dink and dunk their way to scoring some more points. But yeah, having 8 sacks in the game does help a lot.
It did, and even when they weren't able to sack him, which I mean wasn't all the time, but it just felt like it. The sacks came at key moments where it was like 3rd and 8 or whatever, where it's like, ooh, there you could see a play developing, and then the Eagles would get to him. But regardless, by the end of the third quarter, the Giants had given up. The Eagles hadn't given up, but they started pulling their players out. Kenny Pickett finished that game. So pretty uneventful, honestly. I mean, that's kind of the way that I like it in a game that the Eagles should win. That's not to necessarily say that the Giants are total ass, but they're not good this year. So, I mean, that's one of those games where you look at it, it's like, if the Eagles play the game that they should have this by halftime, maybe early third quarter. And that's exactly what happened. So, not necessarily uneventful in the way that it worked out, just because Saquon had his day. But beyond that, it was nothing exciting. Nothing like the next game to talk about with Nate.
I mean, I wish the Vikings would have won. That would have been super nice, but I mean, losing by 2 on essentially a walk-off field goal to another likely Super Bowl contender that arguably should have been in the Super Bowl last year. If it wasn't for some questionable play calling down the stretch, I'm not going to get too.
But I think the big thing that we take away from that game for you is that the NFC North is easily, I think, the best conference in football right now.
Oh, yeah.
There are some better teams, but overall conference, easily the NFC North, which is unexpected because I half expected the Bears to just suck. And
I mean,
they've proven me wrong.
I'm pretty sure a few episodes back on our season preview episode for the NFL, I was not super high on the Vikings themselves. So, I mean, I've been surprised so far, and I just looking at like all the stats from the game, it was honestly just a really eerily close game almost.
Yeah.
So it was like 19 first downs to 16, 56 total plays to 52, 391 total yards to 383 total yards. 8 for 49 penalties, 8 for 59 penalties, 1 turnover apiece, 29-minute possession, 30-minute possession.
The biggest thing that as the game went on, I'm like, all right, if the Vikings can't adjust to stopping this, like it's not going to go well for them. It was every third down play where like Jared Goff would just seemingly find the one open receiver. Jared Goff had almost nearly a perfect game too. So, I mean, that doesn't really help in any aspect. But, it was like every chance you guys had on the third and long or something like that, I'm like, yes, you get this stop, you get the momentum, you get the ball back. And then, Jared Goff just finds this window downfield 20 yards for the first down. And it just kind of happened throughout the game. And I was like, as the game went on, they kept converting more and more. And I go, all right, the Vikings can't stop this. And like, you got to stop Jared Goff, and the Lions are just too creative. And I mean, they weren't super creative yesterday in terms of like, they didn't beat you on, the specialty plays like they did on Dallas. But it just as the game went on, Jared Goff just kind of looked unfazed. And that just not obviously your defense is still really good, but that was the only kind of ailment that it's like, if you can't stop this, it's going to be a long game for your secondary. And it was. Unfortunately, and George was really fast.
We were missing Blake Cashman, who's our starter, string linebacker there, and that definitely is a factor. So it's it was overall like a decent.
It was an entertaining game. Oh
it was solid football again. Sad that the Vikings didn't come out on top. I mean, 2-point loss on essentially a walk-off field goal. It's a good game to be able to build off of. I mean, and I was even looking like just at the passing stats, like Jared Goff was 22 25 for 280. Darnold was only 22 27 for 259.
Yeah.
So it was just such an evenly matched game, and that was kind of just cool to watch. So hopefully both of the teams kind of keep on the same trajectory down the stretch and keep things exciting moving towards the end of the season there. So
yeah. All right. Anything? Do we want to do our NFL picks for this next week?
We can. I was going to say, I didn't know if we just wanted to lob it all in at the end.
Oh, I guess we could do that too. Although I might be too sad at the end.
That'll be the pick me up at the end.
Yeah, I was going to say the picks are going to be the.
So we're not just crying.
Wait, what else is there to talk about? I thought we were ending the show here.
Oh right, yeah. The football season's canceled. Sorry, everyone.
Yeah.
Sorry, college
way at the beginning of the episode.
Yes.
Well, all right. Let's dig into it.
Well, we can just Nebraska, go college football first.
Oh yeah, college football.
Let's start there before we dig into Nebraska.
Well, yeah, that's what I meant.
It was a good slate of college football this last week, I will say.
I was really hoping that Purdue would do the funniest things ever, like they usually have been known to do, but Oregon decided to shut that down real quick.
Yeah, that had trap game written all over it, and Oregon said no.
But I think for me, the most exciting game, and the worst part was I got home from work on Saturday, and I just was not feeling very well. So I basically just took a nap and was lazy. I didn't even watch any TV, so I really didn't watch much for games, but I definitely watched like the back half of this one, and it was the bottle incident, the trash incident at Texas.
Oh yes,
That's just called
Which-
Texas football.
Which,
That
by
too.
the way, in case you guys didn't know, by the way, for all of our listeners that don't know what a dab is, Nate just did one.
oh
just
yeah,
still
Dad's not
living in-
dead.
dab.
still living a decade ago.
Whoa, dab's
Cam
not
Newton doesn't
dead.
play anymore.
The dab is not dead.
But the Texas Georgia game, so Georgia obviously won that one 30-15. But what we
Dude,
learned from that
Texas.
game is that bullying the refs works.
Yes.
Which was just okay. Probably not a hot take because I think everybody else said it. Calling the call back, like calling it back, technically was correct because I don't think it was the pass interference that they called it for. However, in football or in any league, really, everything that I've always been taught when I play sports is the ref has the final say, regardless of if it's right or wrong. You don't argue with it. And so, yeah, I mean, unless they go and review something, they're like, oh, we threw this flag down because we thought we saw it. They review it like, oh, it's not there. But this one, you could argue, is they had plenty of time to go back and change the call because of the delay of the trash on the field. So therefore, apparently, bullying works. I'm like, that is dumb. If anybody else
Leave
had
it-
done that other than Texas, Texas fans alone would be like, well, that's a bunch of bullshit.
Leave it to Texas to ruin college football.
And I don't even say that as a Georgia
Yeah.
fan. I don't like Georgia. But man, after that happened, I was real glad to see. I will say I get really tired of Kirby Smart. No one had us. No, everybody believed we weren't going to
No.
win. Yes, sir.
Literally everybody picked you.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. The
Number
noted
5
underdogs
team
of
in the
Georgia.
country. Wow.
Yeah,
I think there could
it's-
be an argument made that maybe they were a little too low at number 5, but I do think 5 was a fair spot after everything else. So, now they're probably going to go back up. What are they, 2 now?
Yeah, because Oregon's won.
Mhm.
That
So
one
just
makes
when I thought like this was the game that I was going to see about Texas, and if Texas did win, I'm like the SEC is obviously going to run through Texas, and they're going to win the SEC. Now it's okay. Once it's probably going to be now between Georgia and Texas, and Tennessee still has a shot after beating Bama. It's
I'm telling
definitely
you guys.
Vandy?
Vanderbilt.
oh.
The things I would do for a Vandy SEC championship.
No, yes, it's between Texas, Georgia, and Tennessee now. After Tennessee escapes, well, not really escapes. Bama really threw away the game against Tennessee. Yeah, those are your three. Yeah, darn right. Those are your three now for the SEC contenders for who's going to win that title. But I wouldn't be mad about a Texas Georgia rematch for that championship too. Just to see, if Texas learned from their mistakes, or if Kirby Smart just knows what he's doing and does well. But
I still say it's between Tennessee and Texas. But
yeah, which I don't think they
Time will tell on that one.
play. I don't think they play. No, Tennessee still has to play Georgia, but they don't get to play Texas. Oh, Tennessee still has to play at Vanderbilt. Oh no. Oh,
That's their last game of the year, too.
oh man. Uh-oh.
Texas has to go to Vanderbilt first, though.
Oh god.
I'm going to go
A ranked
this year.
Vanderbilt.
as of
be
right
clear.
now.
Yes.
I am going to be very clear, though.
Alabama, Tennessee, and Texas all at home this year. That's insane.
I'm going to be very clear, though. I don't think if Vanderbilt got into the SEC championship, I think I would cry. Not because of Vanderbilt.
Happy
I'm saying
tears.
because the team that we cheer for, somehow Vanderbilt got better than us if that happens. Actually, no. Vanderbilt is better than us right now.
Yeah, they are.
So
But
what else was
What a
there?
great segue.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was looking at some of these other ones, and Illinois smacked around Michigan.
Maryland
Second.
beat USC, which was weird to see.
yeah, and UCLA won their first Big Ten game against Rutgers.
Yeah, we broke Rutgers, I think.
Yeah. And Michigan State beat Iowa.
And Wisconsin might be not bad again. So
Yeah, that's not excited anymore
yep.
about that. At all.
It was one of the weekends of all time.
Fine. All right. Should we dive into it?
I mean, I'm going to be honest.
I know,
This is
there's
not
not
the
gonna be
only game
much.
I really watched, and there is not going to be much that I'm going to want to say. So
It's and Nate and I were talking a lot on Saturday. This is definitely the reality gut punch, back to earth game that Nebraska endured. And I know before this game started and like all of last week, and I'm like, even if we do lose, as long as we don't go in there and get blown out, and if we lose by 2
As long as we
scores
don't
or something
lose
like
the
that,
dumbest way possible.
yeah, then I'm like, it's a quote unquote good loss, a moral loss. But what happened Saturday was beyond belief of I don't think anybody saw coming. And if you did see coming, then you're a liar, because there's not a chance that anybody saw that kind of butt kicking coming in Bloomington. And I knew Indiana was good. I didn't think they were, a 49-point win good though, type thing. But I mean, I knew their offense was legit and everything, but I did not. And like Matt Rule said after the game, it's just like they did not see that coming. I don't think anybody saw that coming. Now, whether the sky is falling or not remains to be seen, but it's definitely a bleak outlook, especially for what's coming this week against Ohio State as well. And the rest of the season. Even if Nebraska finishes 6-6, I think if you had told us at the beginning of the season, Nebraska's going to finish 6-6, like sign me up, sign that contract. Like I think most of us would have taken that in a heartbeat.
And arguably be back for like half the year.
Yeah. I think we all would have taken that.
Not like back, but at least like somewhat nationally relevant. Like
right.
showing a little bit more like relevance. Yeah.
It's the fact that they started 5-1 going into this game. And, this kind of just resets the morale, the confidence, the trust that we have kind of in the team and the coaching staff at the moment. And you can make what you want about what Rule said after the game, apologizing to the fans, saying we didn't see that coming. Maybe a little concerning, halfway through year 2 right now that, there's still a lot of demons he's got to exercise throughout the culture of the program between the years, all of that and so forth. But it's the fact that Nebraska showed up in game 19 or whatever it is of year 2 and absolutely looked like they did not want to play football Saturday. It's very, very, very hard to find one positive spin, like gleaming light about this game. And I think if you had to choose, my pick would be that Nebraska actually used their tight end a lot, which we haven't seen because Fedoni finished 6 for 91. I mean,
he had a good day.
Yeah, I've been clamoring for them to use their tight end forever. And the one good game that Fedoni has is a game that they get blown out by 49. So it's like, outside of that, I mean, there's literally, I can't think of another positive to take away. I mean, you had special team mistakes, the defense. Out of all the things that baffled me on Saturday, I think it was the defense.
Deep, yeah.
The offense did not look great, obviously, and I kind of saw them not scoring as much. And like Nate had said before, like if this turned into a shootout, like you're not winning this game. And it definitely did early on, but I did not see the defense play like they were going to play. I did not see them just absolutely get blown out by the line, coverages, all of that. And I admit a lot of this is credit to Indiana. I mean, they just have really good, talented players. They execute and did every little thing right, from the coverages to passing to blocking to, I mean, Rorik made those back shoulder passes look like they've been doing that for 10 years. I mean, they looked so easy. We just had no answer for any of it. And yeah, it's a reality check. It's a gut punch. And what I said Saturday was this is going to be a long 2 weeks. If you count this weekend going into next week, because you're assuming that whatever Saturday happens at Ohio State's probably going to be similar to what happened last week. So there's going to be a lot of 2-week discussion about the coaching staff, the players, the team's general outlook the next 5 games. Because your next shot at really winning a game and trying to get bowl eligible is UCLA. And UCLA just won a game. So, I mean, they're not going to come in and roll over against Nebraska November 2nd at home. I mean, Nebraska still got to show up and play that game. But, you know, barring anything happening Saturday that's an upset, it's going to be a long 2 weeks of discourse around here. And I thought we were out of that last year, especially just like Nate said about how the season started. And there was just that little tiny optimism of hope. But maybe we're a little nearsighted and probably should have set our bar a little bit lower about this. But this is the type of butt kicking that I think just sets every fan's confidence back just a little bit, if not a lot, in terms of just how you look at this specific team for this year and going forward. And we can talk about what changes they need to make from personnel, players, all of that. My gut is, if anything, Rule's going to wait till the end of the season. So for those wanting fully Satterfield, you know, Garrett McGuire, anybody changed, moved around, fired, I would just set your reality low and say it's not going to happen until after the season, if anything does happen, which it should. I mean, we can talk about that too. There definitely need to be changes made. Special teams is first and foremost on that list. But yeah, that's kind of my spiel. It was sad, obviously. And like, I agree with Rule. I didn't see that coming. I don't know if he should be saying that. Because as a coach, you should kind of know who your opponent is and what you're going up against. But I don't know if he meant that more from like, oh, I didn't see that coming from our players type thing, or anything. But
that's how I took it.
Yeah, especially when you have 2 weeks to prepare for this. And Indiana also had 2 weeks too, and they just took us to the pound. I mean, there's no other way to phrase that. They had no regard for our human life. If that's what happened.
Yeah, they kind of bent us over and showed us what for. Yeah, I really don't have much. I mean, you kind of hit on all my things. I'll give it to Nate real quick, but I mean, like, sorry. What I meant is I'll be quick and then I'll give it to Nate.
Yeah.
Sorry. I didn't mean to get y'all excited. I don't even like from that game. I'm hoping, obviously, like they're going to watch tape and find things that they can because you have to. But in my case, I'm like, this is one of those games I'm just going to forget about. I'm going to hope.
And they might have to. Yeah.
I'm going to hope that they can do something against Ohio State. Not necessarily. Winning, I don't want to say is impossible because it's college football. Anything can happen. And I guess if the players really, really, really light themselves up and come out and play and really take that loss with some kind of ferocity, maybe. Do I think it's going to happen? No. I really just leave that game with a lot of questions being like, you know, to the point of, did we set our expectations too high? Maybe a little bit, but I think we live in an era where, you know, a decade ago, maybe even before that, college football did take time to rebuild because you couldn't essentially pay and recruit. Well, you could, but not legally. But now you can just pay and get your good players, which, you know, technically is how we got Dylan. I think the question still remains, though, is how is everywhere else able to do it?
But not here.
Indiana, Vanderbilt. And I mean, I understand that like Indiana is a little different because they brought in a lot of JMU guys that are super seniors. Does Kurt Signetti keep his momentum going next year? My vote says yeah, but quite frankly, I just have a lot of questions. And it's always stems back to what is Nebraska, what have they done or what are they doing that doesn't ever allow us to just forget about the last decade of bad football, specifically football at least, and just allow us to finally figure it out. Because if everywhere else can do it, and I'm not even trying to put the other programs that I just said down. Like I know I said Vanderbilt in there too. And I get it, like NIL and transfer portal has helped with a lot of that. But it's like, if those other teams can figure it out, we have everything to be able to do it, and we just can't. And I don't necessarily blame Rule entirely for that. At a certain point, there's a line where the players have to show up and play, and I think that's the biggest takeaway I took from the Indiana game. Looked like nobody showed up except for Fedoni, Raiola, and I'll give Buschini credit because he seemed fine. But regardless, it just seemed like nobody showed up to play. And I mean, that's a bigger issue, which that does go back to coaching. But you can coach them as hard as you want. If they show up on Saturday and don't play, even if you're trying to coach them, you can coach as much as you want. At a certain point, it's on the players for them too. So I don't know. We'll see how this next weekend goes. I got nothing. On you, Nate.
I agree with you, Zach. It's the fan, and the talk about the fan base too. It's, to your point, like, how is every other school able to do this, and then Nebraska's not? And it's definitely a way of the coach and how Matt Rule wants to build the program. He wants to do it the traditional way, and college football is shifting to you pay for instant gratification rather than the slow, long rebuild. And that's the hard part, and that's what's going to get coaches fired quicker sooner rather than later in this day and age. It's kind of like the NFL. I mean, you can have coaches that last the season and that's it. You can fire them because that's just the revolution of the NFL. But you kind of start seeing that now when you start to be able to play players, get transfer portal, all of that is teams want instant gratification success in 1 or 2 years rather than this slow traditional rebuild. That Rule is the path that is going on. Now, whether Rule needs to shift away from that, there's still 5 more games to figure that out. We'll see. And maybe he does. But, it's just, Saturday was reality. Gut check. And, we need to set the bar just a little bit lower now the rest of the season.
Yeah, this next weekend is still kind of going to be a gut check, too, just to see how good they are. Okay,
and
go ahead.
It doesn't help that Ohio State's coming off a bye, hungry after that loss against Oregon. I mean, they've had 2 weeks to marinate on that loss. And, I don't think there's a world that Ryan Day goes easy on us, even if they are kicking us. I mean, they're probably going to want to go out and curb stomp their next opponent.
Ryan Day hasn't gotten easy on us when they've been undefeated and we've had like 2 wins.
So, I mean, if Saturday happens again like that, I mean, I don't expect Ryan Day to take it. I mean, he's going to want to show to the poll voters too that, we can go out here and kick these teams 56 to something, kind of like what Indiana did, even after a loss. So it's a scary time. It's like you're marching towards a funeral, basically, is what Saturday is.
I just hope the players turn it around.
Yeah.
I don't expect them to win. I just want to see it come.
And that's when you need Ty and Nash and those guys on defense to like yell at people. I mean, you got to yell at them. I don't know if that's going to be effective, but like I don't know what else, because Saturday there was no effort whatsoever. It looked like they didn't want to be there. And Nebraska had everything going in their favor for terms of motivation. I mean, they were the underdog. They had everybody talking about Indiana, and why can't they be talking about us type games? And none of that seemed to matter at all. Yeah, Nate, what's your thoughts there?
I'll try to bring it back to a little more of a positive light throughout this. There were definitely plenty of low lights to last week's game. I mean, 56-7 is never a good outcome when you're on the side that scored 7. I think one of my texts to you guys is I wasn't sure if only losing by 49 instead of 50 counted as a moral victory, but that was about where we were at the day. It was in a vacuum. That was a just terrible showing. Like you guys mentioned, that nobody except maybe Dylan looked like they wanted to even be out on the football field, and that's disheartening to see. There could be a variety of factors to that. Most of them probably point to coaching, but I'm sure there's some. I mean, you get, with bye weeks and all that, and sounds like Dylan's been dealing with an injury for a bit, so there's some, I think, behind the scenes things that we're not 100% in the know on, but I mean, still 56-7. And granted, I still think Indiana is a fantastic team, and they, deserve all the credit they're getting. I don't know. Nebraska still had the opportunities, is the thing. Like, especially in that first half of the second quarter, like they were well within the game, and
yeah,
it was just
when
the
we
mental
scored,
mistakes of
it was
going out at the
14-7.
1 yard line on the first kickoff,
Yeah,
fumbling, Dowdell fumbling in the red zone.
That was
Not
kind of the
not
start of it, I
even
felt like.
having an option of being able to kick if we're within 30 yards.
I mean, when Nebraska scored, it was 14-7. So I mean, that
Mhm.
you're still a drive away from being, or no, it was 21-7. Sorry, when they scored.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, it's still a 2-score game, but yeah, I mean, just the way that the rest of that game went, you just like, there's no way they can stop them, and
Yep. And
obviously
it
they
was
didn't.
it's the feeling we've all felt for a while now, where it's like the game starts going off the rails and you just kind of know it's going to start spiraling. And I mean, the hope is that gets fixed by year 2 of Matt Rule trying to fix literally everything. But
Right.
I don't know. Realistically, I think we need to be a little more understanding of the circumstances that were inherited. So I'll probably get fired from the podcast, but I was very disappointed in a lot of the Nebraska journalism coming out saying that the sky is falling and Rule is a disaster class in coaching. And sure, you can make the comparison that Kurt Signetti's the first-year coach, but he had a lot of help with
And
his
I think that's
previously
where
unbeaten team that transferred to this
Yeah.
team. And
Yeah.
I think that's where most of the discourse is coming from, is how did this, guy get first-year head coach? How can you do this in 7 games with transfer portal players, and we're in game 19 with a second-year head coach, and we still can't? It's a lot of teams look at that, and it doesn't help that it's not a program like Indiana, where they are primarily a basketball school, and all of a sudden there's just this resurgence of a football team. So it's not like, if this game would have happened against Ohio State, I think the talk would be much less, because it would be like, oh, this was expected to happen and all of that.
Mhm.
But it's the fact that it happened to a non-traditional powerhouse football team. And a lot of people are looking like, well, how can a first guy head coach do this, but we can't do this in 19 game year 2 head coach type thing. So that's where I think a lot of that sentiment is coming from, Nate, is it's just people aren't accepting of the slow rebuild, because that's just not the way college football is anymore, and they just want the fast, instant teams. Like, I mean, Vanderbilt's a great example. And I can't speak much for like Army or Navy or anything like that, because I have absolutely no idea what the service academies do in terms of their coaching and everything. But I mean, this year, it's just a weird college football year where you see a lot of these non-traditional teams just rise up. I mean, SMU is top 20 at least, I think, right now. So I mean, it's just a lot of these weird teams that we don't expect to be in the top 10 or top 25, and they're just making runs right now. I mean, Illinois is also a perfect example of a rebuild. I mean, that's just what they are. Bert's been there for 4 or 5 years now. And that just until the past couple of years that Illinois started to become consistently good and get ranked. So it's like, can Nebraska fans kind of patiently wait for that type thing? How much of that is negated by the fact that all of our hope and optimism was with Dylan coming in year 1, thinking like, we finally have our freshman quarterback, finally have the offense, we can just pick it up and we'll be good type thing. So I agree with you, Nate. I didn't like some of the comments of like, oh, this is the sky is falling. Now, if things don't change by the end of the season, then yes, I could start to have those conversations. Or whatever happens in the off season, like if Rule doesn't make any changes, then yeah, I can absolutely see that people are going to start thinking that again. Because at the way that this season's gone, especially on special teams, there has to be changes right now. So yeah, it's interesting. But I mean, obviously I don't think any of us are jumping off the Rule train yet. But if definitely they lose out after going 5-1, then there's definitely talks that need to be had about staff and personnel right now.
100%.
Yeah. But that's obviously we're not going to think about that.
I think your point though, Nate, like what Andy had said too, or I think the thing that reminded me is that Rule is doing, because I said that too. I was like, well, why can Kurt Signetti do it when he had help with JMU players coming in? But that is a good point where he's trying to rebuild from basically the ground up with a culture on top of good players. He's not just trying to come in, win now to get the next job. I could very well see Kurt Signetti being at Indiana for a couple of years, having some sustained success to get his next job. I don't necessarily foresee him being at Indiana forever because he is a good head coach. That is plain to see. Like, he's very good.
Right.
But yeah, I guess Nebraska has had such bad rot the whole time that he has to completely try to clean that out. And I'm almost wondering at this point if that has to be done in like year 4, because we still have some like people that are on our team from like 3-4 years ago now. Not saying Bryce Benhart has been terrible.
That was
going
to
to
be my point of like, Indiana, the first year head coach brought guys in. How'd they turn it around? But like, they had how many transfers come in? So like, they weren't dealing with this was the past culture. This is like what's ingrained in the players in the program that are already there. We have to stick with them because we know them, and it's different. It's just different.
It is.
They are different scenarios.
Short-sighted and, in my opinion, pretty stupid to just throw it all away right now and say the season's over and Matt Rule's a failure. Like,
two things can be true. We did not play well on Saturday, and
absolutely.
Indiana is a very good team right now.
Yeah, and there's a very good chance it's not going to get better by next week either. And I don't know. I'm worried about the discourse that's going to come from that. Like, we didn't make any changes. Like, yeah, we played Ohio State. Like,
I think what scares me is not necessarily the Ohio State game; it's the effect after the Ohio State game, because we have 2 games where we get absolutely we're assuming we're going to get smashed at Ohio State. They could come out and surprise us. Again, I'm not saying a win. I'm saying if they look like they put up a fight, progress from Indiana
last week at least, yeah.
And if they can take that kind of momentum and be like, hey, like, we kept Ohio State within a touchdown, like, for real, like something like that, I'd be like, holy cow, okay, they really just didn't play well at Indiana. Then I'm going to be like, okay, there's something there. I guess it's how they respond this week, but also like if they get boat raced again, or when technically they could get boat raced again, how do they respond in the preceding weeks? Because 5-2 right now sounds great on paper and really isn't bad. But if we go 5-7, then it's like, we just bottled the back half of the year, basically.
Right.
And I think that's when I would start pondering the coaching questions, because like, whatever, like, last week was weird. Whatever happened there, like you guys have said, just kind of got to throw that away at the moment and go into Ohio State. Like I said, there's a better than not chance that's probably going to also be a blowout game this coming Saturday. But then the coaching after that, how, like, can you bring the guys back in, get them to buy into the rest of the season, and be like, hey, this is where we're at. We're hopefully 6-2, but we're probably sitting at 5-3 after next weekend. We're still well within, like, in position to, at the very baseline, make a bowl game. We're still going to have to come out and compete and, grow through this process. And I think that's where, like, if you guys said, like, if we finish 5-7, there are very legitimate questions to have there. But I don't think we can, like, that was not a great result. But again, and I did the very arbitrary stat digging that night to find out that Nebraska hasn't beaten a team, or has beaten one team that has won, or that finished the season more than 2 games above 500. And that was Northwestern last year. A Matt Rule coach team, ironically enough, if you'd believe it. So like, things are already turning slightly. But like, we haven't realistically been probably even close to average for the past decade, and that is a tough reality to even say out loud. But like, at some point we have to recognize it and understand that it's not just going to be, why are we not, an 8-win team in Matt Rule's second season, and think that the sky is falling. Like, I don't know. Like it's gonna take time, and no, it's not the flashy. Why can't we turn it around in 1 or 2 years? And I would push back and say that would you rather be a flash in the pan for 1 or 2 years, or would you rather build something that's a little more long lasting?
Right.
So,
and the biggest issue with our fan base is we're trying to put 20 plus years of demon exercising these bad things all on one guy right now in Matt Rule. And it's obviously not fair to him. Matt Rule, I mean, he knows the job taking Nebraska. You know what happens when you take the job at Nebraska. You know what all comes with that. It's like you said, Nate, our expectations of trying to exercise 20 years of demons and football streaks and all of this and that, trying to put it all on one guy to change that for you. It's not going to happen right away. And yeah, it's hard to accept that reality that other coaches can do it within 7 games, and it's taking us years to do it. But
again, I mean, Scott Frost wasn't going to do it. I mean, looking back on that, for being honest, Mike Riley's probably not. Bo Pelini's our best shot, but that's been over a decade now.
Right.
So, like,
and that was the thing with Bo. You'd win 9 plus games, but you get blown out against Wisconsin and Ohio State and every single year as you'd win the games that you were supposed to, and you go into these big games like, what happened to Nebraska last weekend, you absolutely get thrashed. So it's so hard to try to fix all of those streaks all at once. And you have to be patient and do it one by one. The issue is our fan base is not patient, and that's the biggest detriment to it.
And it's tougher too when you start off, 5-1, and have a really good first half of the season,
and you have those high expectations.
It's, competition. Let's be completely honest. Like,
you're right.
I'm still not high on Illinois,
and they just keep winning. They're kind of like the Iowa the past couple of years. Is they're not great, but they just keep winning, no matter how ugly it is.
Yeah. So with his post game comments, I get it. Like, sure, we can scrutinize those, but I don't know what I would say after we just got our ass kicked 56-7, and I was like, I thought this was at least going to be a competitive game. Like, I would probably be like, I don't know what to say. I
appreciated how honest he was. I mean, you never want to hear your coach say, I didn't expect that, but it's like that kind of goes to what I was saying earlier, where I think he believed that he coached them guys really well, and there are certainly questions that could be asked about that. But, then you get to the point of, I don't know. It's tough because at what point do you say, well, the coaches need to coach the players? Yeah, but the players need to go do the thing too. Like, where does that line end?
And he might have been prisoner of the moment too when he said that.
Yeah. And I guess, to be fair, I haven't seen a lot of people really scrutinizing him saying that. I think more just surprised that he openly said it, if anything, which, again, I appreciate that kind of honesty. Where
I was going to say, I almost like it more that he was just open and honest about, like, hey, I don't know, we're going to fix it. But, I don't know what happened.
Because then he followed it up today with the comments of, like, he's not worried about his guys coming out and not playing hard. I mean, granted, you watched what we saw against Indiana. That might be a questionable statement, but again, I think we've all kind of come to the same conclusion of Ohio State's a David versus Goliath, but David also took down Goliath, so it's not impossible. And if Nebraska really, really finds it deep down in their hearts to actually play a football game this next weekend, I still say we have the talent to at least compete with Ohio State. I don't necessarily think it's going to be a close compete. I don't necessarily think the game's going to come down to the wire. But sometimes a loss like that, a demoralizing loss like that, is maybe what I think. The only thing that I'm really tired of hearing about, and this is all just online chatter type of stuff, is, is Dylan is he gonna leave? And maybe, but if that's the case, then he was never destined to stay here anyway. And so, I mean, at that point, you wish him luck and you let him go.
Yeah, it's going to be a long 2 weeks of discourse here. Especially after just everybody looking forward just to getting this Ohio State over with, and then just getting to your next best chance to win your 6th game against UCLA at home. So
Yay.
Yeah, it's gonna be. Might be having the same talk next week too, but at least
I think at least next weekend we're more expecting.
Correct, and that's we'll be accepting and expecting of it type thing, unless we arguably keep it close and lose in a dumb fashionable way like we always do.
Hey, you know what? If we lose a 1-score game to Ohio State, that's a win. That's a win.
That is something you can build on. But yeah, it's long 2 weeks, but
Sky's not falling.
Sky's not falling yet. I wouldn't
Ed
say
Foley, I would maybe be looking at real estate elsewhere. Satterfield, I'm still not on that trade at all.
Definitely,
I still maintain what I was saying, where I thought it was kind of wild that we were trying to take shots down the field so early. But
we just don't have a running game, and that's the biggest issue. Is we don't have a clear number one back.
Well, we clearly don't have receivers that want to get open either, so we don't have an offense, I guess.
If Dowdle doesn't fumble in that,
moment.
The worst part about that was he had the first down to make it. It looked like, at least, and it was a really solid run. So if he would have it's not like he didn't just have to go down. It was, if he would have gone down.
Nebraska's ran that play multiple times this year on 4th and 1, and most of the time they score. Because they bring in Bazooka for that play, and they get the fullback, and they usually always run it to the right, and it's always a first down or a touchdown in that case. And
we didn't even need to we didn't even need to score in that. We just needed a first down because we had like 3 yards or whatever to get to the. It was I think it might have been a little more than that, but we still we were almost to the end zone. So whatever, flush it.
Yep.
Just to go to this week. With that even said, we're not even going over the predictions last week because we were all way off. So,
I was correct that there were going to be a lot of points scored. I was incorrect on which team was going to be doing all of the points.
Well, no, technically you were the closest with the Indiana guess, but you were very far off on the Nebraska guess.
So I'm going to go 38-21 Ohio State. I think Nebraska does pick it up offensively a little bit. I think they do have some sort of a rebound. Like I said, I think Ohio State's probably a little bit more vulnerable than Indiana was, but Ohio State's Ohio State, and we very well could be talking about another 56-7 game, but I'm going to be slightly optimistic in terms of the offense kind of picking it up. But Ohio State's, I think Nebraska does cover. At least the 28 point spread by the time Saturday rolls around. Instead of
what do we say it was as of this recording? Is 25?
Probably 24,
25 and a half.
It'll probably jump up to 28 by Saturday.
Yeah, it's 25 and a half on ESPN. I'm sure they're different everywhere else. So.
Over unders 48 and a half. Jesus.
Wow.
How many of those will be Ohio State? That's the key question.
All right. So, I've got mine unless Nate's got his. So.
I think I got mine. Sky's not falling. That being said, I don't think it's going
to be by 90.
I don't think it's going to be good this weekend. I'll go 52-10. I don't think it's going to be great this weekend. If we can keep it within 3 scores, I will be ecstatic.
Yeah.
But past that, I mean, it's just salvage the season.
Get to UCLA.
Learn from these past 2 weeks is all that I am asking. So,
yeah, I was gonna go a little more optimistic. When I guess I technically am, but I guess the way I see this game going is that I think Nebraska potentially has a little bit of a bounce back in the first half. In the sense that, we go into halftime, it's like, oh, okay, we're not like what we could have against Indiana, where it could have been 14-21. You're like, oh, okay, we're not down 2 scores. I could see us getting to that point, and then the second half, Nebraska in Ohio State running away with it. To that point, then
that's what I heard.
I mean, I would take
you heard it here first, folks.
I'm not going to say no. I guess this is a bit more of going to be a bit more of a optimistic take, but I'm going to also take 21 like Andy did, but I'm going to say 42. I think Ohio State's just gonna.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily think they're gonna go easy on us, but I think it's gonna get to a point where they pull all their starters out and they're just like, man, just run the
Garbage
clock.
time.
Yeah, like they're not necessarily, not gonna run the clock, but before the worst part is we got to our picks for Nebraska football without even doing this, but at this point,
everybody,
the Nebraska football team.
Yeah.
Moving on.
My hopes and dreams.
Fire into the sun, the entire team. That's
fire
that's
into
the award
the sun.
this week.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a question about it.
The entire Nebraska football team is getting fired into the sun,
Except for Dylan and Buschini.
Yeah.
Which I
and maybe
I would like to just acknowledge we lost by 49 and we only punted 3 times.
And how many of those
that
were
stat hurt my brain?
What do we have? 5 turnovers?
Yeah, that's what sucked.
Yeah.
Is that we did actually technically at that point then punt almost 8 times then because we kept giving them the ball.
Right.
Arm punts.
Can't lose special teams when you don't use them.
That's a good point. All right. Well, outside of the Nebraska guests, we might as well throw in some fun
We're doing
little
college
picks
football
as well.
first.
We can kind of do whatever we want to do.
Oh well.
Are we doing both college and NFL, or are we just doing one each? Whatever game we feel most.
I feel more confident in NFL.
It's fine by me.
Oh. Man.
Also, once again, disclaimer: we are not gambling experts. 1-800-GAMBLER if you have gambling problems.
I feel like it's fool's gold for me to pick my own game, but they are playing the Panthers. I mean, it's a really good for sure pick. I mean, it's hard not to pick them. I mean, it's the Panthers, or you could whoever's playing the Chargers playing the Saints could also be another easy gimme pick. The really fun pick would be trying to figure out who's going to win between Arizona and Miami, or the Patriots or the Jets. Because I don't know.
Yeah, that one's tough.
The Packers should beat the Jaguars, but I don't know. I feel like Jacksonville might have a weird, funky game at home against Green Bay.
It's the way it should be, honestly.
The Chiefs should beat the Raiders, but will they? I don't know.
The Raiders have been like low-key feisty this year. Not good. It's just feisty.
Not good.
That would be the funniest thing ever, though.
And Aiden O'Connell's out for like 5 to 6 weeks now with a hand injury. So
Minshew Mania's back.
Minshew Mania, and they signed Desmond Ridder today.
Yes.
There we go.
The Raiders are going full weird sicko.
All right, so your pick is Denver?
I mean, yeah, and I know it's a biased pick, but I mean they're playing Carolina at home. It's gotta verify, right?
I would think so.
I would think so.
Go ahead, Nate. I was still looking for the other one that I had.
Yeah, it's an interesting slate of NFL games.
Because you have like 2 or 3 good ones, but then the rest of it's like, ugh.
Yeah. Oh,
The heck?
Because the 49ers should beat the Cowboys, but like the 49ers are decimated on offense.
Yeah, but the Cowboys don't have defense.
No, they don't.
Which is weird because I thought that was going to be their strength this year.
I'm gonna say Houston wins, but the Colts cover.
Ooh, I like that. What's the line?
Houston by 6. I think that'll be a closer game.
I like that. I like that.
Now I need to. I don't know. I don't know if I like this one or not because this seems like a really big line, but I think I'm going to take it. I think Illinois covers against Oregon. The line on ESPN is 25 to Oregon.
Okay, yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know, man. Like Illinois hasn't necessarily been amazing, but they haven't been bad, and Oregon has been good, obviously. But 25
Right.
makes sense for our game against OSU. I don't know if that applies against Illinois, unless there's something that I missed, like somebody's injured on Illinois' team. But
Yeah. No,
that'd be
it's
my-
I compare Illinois to what Iowa has been the past couple years, just with a better offense. I mean, they will give up points. Obviously, they gave up 49 to Purdue, but
Yeah.
Illinois is just like they're just good enough just to win the games, and that's it.
But that's what I mean is I think they will play up to the competition of Oregon. I don't
Yeah.
think they'll win. But I think they keep it closer than 25 points.
Right.
That's 3 touchdowns basically. So I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's possible for Illinois to do.
Yeah.
I have more
absolutely.
faith in them than I have faith in our team right now.
Yeah.
All right.
I have my hot takes here.
Okay.
Takes here. Ole Miss beats Oklahoma by more than 21.
Yeah. And
I
Oklahoma
can see
just
that.
fucked their OC.
And then straight up, Vandy beats Texas.
I love that one.
I do love that a lot.
Okay, I'm actually going to stick in the same vein though. Although this one's not as like crazy, but this one goes back to how weird of a line this is. I guess it is in Alabama, but I could see Missouri pulling off some voodoo magic against Alabama.
Yeah.
Missouri hasn't looked as good as they did at the beginning of the year, but they're still ranked 21. They obviously don't terribly suck.
Right.
I don't know. I think Missouri at least covers that line. I could see them beating them, but I'm going to say they do. They're within 13.5. That's my
I like that.
sick pick of the week.
I like that.
Oh, man, am I allowed another sick pick or
Sure.
Can I? Okay.
Technically, you just said your hot takes.
True.
You did say hot take.
You never did actually give a total pick. You
Okay,
you gave your
fair
first
enough, fair
gimme, but you did not give your sick one. That was my sick pick.
Okay.
Are you going to say
Okay.
Kansas upsets Kansas State?
No, that won't be a close game.
That's going to go in the hot take category.
I will say though, Wisconsin upsets Penn State.
See, I was looking at that too.
Yep.
I was wondering that.
Wisconsin at home at night,
Yep.
and Wisconsin's picked it up recently. And Penn State did blow that game, or I guess they did come back against USC. USC blew that game, but Penn State was down 20-6 in that game before USC blew it. And USC obviously has not looked the same since they lost to Minnesota or before that. Either way. But yeah, I mean, Wisconsin at home, they picked it up. Penn State hasn't really, I mean, they're the number 3 team, but they also haven't looked like fantastic either. Especially how they started the season too. So yeah, I could see Wisconsin pulling off that upset. Now, do I want that for Nebraska? No, because that's just more detriment to Wisconsin coming to here and kicking the crap out of us. But
yes, 100%.
yeah, I could see that.
All right. Well, if we're doing multiple things, whether it's hot takes or whatever, I have one that I was between this one, so I'm going to throw it on there too. I'm going to take Cincinnati over Colorado.
That's going to be such a fun late game too.
I get why Colorado's the favorite in this game just because it's at home.
Uh-huh.
But I don't think. I mean, Cincinnati hasn't really played anybody either in that same comparison. Colorado has, I guess they did curb stomp Arizona, but I don't know. I'm sitting here looking at this like, I don't know. I think Cincinnati takes it to Colorado. I think that's going to be a good game.
I was also looking at that game too. That is going to be a good game.
Yeah, I think.
True Cisco said 9:00 Central.
We are going to need to start writing these down so then I can start putting out like a cool little tweet with our picks and just see how close we are. That means we have to have like 4 or 5 picks an episode now.
Yes.
The true sicko game is at 6 Central Time. 1-6 Utah State versus 1-6 Wyoming.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Florida State at Miami.
Oh, that game just shouldn't be played. We know what's going to happen. We don't need to see it happen on the field.
No, you're right. You're right.
Let me see. Are there any wild NFL games? Because I did all college football, so I'm wondering if I actually
It's
I'm
not
gonna update.
fantastic for NFL, but
I'm gonna update my.
it is a slate.
Oh shoot! This comes out after this game happens. Hold on a sec. Oh come on! My computer is loading very slow. Glad it's not lagging or anything.
Yeah, why would it do that?
All right. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna give you another gimme pick. This is a freebie. When this episode comes out on Friday the 25th, Nashville hockey will be playing against the Chicago Blackhawks. Take the Blackhawks. I don't know exactly how hockey betting works. Like I'm sure you can bet on multiple things. Definitely. Actually, let's see. They don't have lines for it yet. Never mind. I was gonna say take the over on it. Bet against Nashville.
I kind of forgot about the Friday night game of right after the World Series of Rutgers and USC.
It's gonna be beautiful.
Both teams are coming up three game losing streak, so somebody's got to win.
And are there going to be fans? There's the question.
Yeah, I was gonna say the city of LA.
Is game one in LA or is it in New York?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so most of them will probably be at they're
going to be watching
rather than USC Rutgers.
Piscataway, you gotta pack the Coliseum.
Yes.
We'll see how that goes.
All right.
Is that it? Are we done?
That might be it, boys.
That is it. As my little header says, sports are indeed pain at the moment, but I will reiterate: the sky is not falling. Law of averages says that eventually it has to not be all pain. So whenever that happens, enjoy it. It will be good when it definitely happens. I'm not convincing myself, but we thank everyone for tuning into the podcast, listening to the hottest takes this side of the Missouri River.
Number one sports podcast, baby.
Yes.
The number one sports podcast, according to super secret rankings that are only available to Sportsball podcasters. And don't forget, the Patreon that definitely exists is probably live somewhere. So $1 billion donors, we are awaiting your support. Even non-$1 billion donors, we are also waiting your support.
We're also waiting for you.
So, thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you, Andy and Zach, my lovely co-hosts for the day. And thank you again for tuning into the Sportsball Podcast, your source for sports.